recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, but
can you say, hey? No, we're not even getting that today.
Right now we're in my world, Jeff. Pipe down. This is my world, Conrad Thompson's world. And last week you came on here before Eddie Kingston went on TV and called you hillbilly boy. And you ran your mouth about how you were going to make me parade around the stadium there in Knoxville with Smokey. Have you heard about Smokey? It's breaking news that Marcus is going to share with you here if you're watching with us on YouTube. ESPN now reporting Smokey has entered the transfer portal. This is like a country song. Lost your game. Lost your damn dog. We're getting his ass down here to Tuscaloosa, just like you will be, because you lost the bet, Jeff. We made hashtag double J bet, and now you've got to pay up, which means not only do you have to come to an Alabama game next year, or I guess next year, it's in Knoxville. You'll be in Neyland Stadium dressed like a goof. I get to dress you up, and this is what you're going to look like, Jeff. There it is. All those slapdicks around you. That's like Coach Rosie. That's Coach Keith. That might be Lopez over there. But there you are. I'm going to put you as the T and tie. That T is for Thompson. That's what it's about. That's what you're going to look like the third Saturday in October, 2024. How does it feel, Jeff? The natural order of things have been restored. Cody in his life. And by the way, my man turns 17 as you're listening to this tomorrow. And we're going to sing happy birthday to him to close the show today. But until last year, he had never ever seen Tennessee beat Alabama. He saw it, and it was like once in a lifetime. What do you know? It'll never happen again. I'm going to have Efren fly in special to put all the body paint on you. I feel like he's got experience with that.
Oh, man.
Are you excited? Are you anxious? We'll have the queen there. Karen will be there to supervise. Make sure everyone doesn't go too far. He tells me you might not even need Blue Chew that day. Just the natural order of things will take over. Just let nature be what it is. I mean, Jeff, it was 27-0 in the second half. It's like y'all fucking got on the bus at halftime and just went the shit home. What happened? You gonna blame Bischoff and Hogan for that too? It could be worse. You could be a Bengals fan. I guess that's the good note on the weekend. The Titans couldn't lose on Sunday too. They were off.
No, they just traded their best defensive player away today. So go ahead and throw that another log on the pile.
Yeah. Listen, it's not all bad news. You returned home this past Saturday night with your tail tucked between your legs. You were back in the city that you made famous, that you put on the map, Memphis. Of course, there's your beautiful bride, and there's the man with the plan. I think people were calling him out of his name. They were calling him Jamar on television last week. I didn't like that, not one bit. But our great close personal friend, Jay Lethal, he's got a title shot now against Eddie Kingston, who, boy, you guys put a hurting on. I mean, a real hurting on. But, hey, that's sort of the natural order of things. It was actually pointed out over the weekend. There was a great tweet that came out that I know Marcus has handy. Oh, premature Jones here.
Can we just hold on a minute?
Yeah.
Just for a second.
Oh, we're going to talk about football? Tell me you're not going to do that to yourself. This is about to be embarrassing.
Do we want to talk about the officiating, sir?
We can talk about whatever you want. Everybody's got different excuses when they lose.
Oh, Conrad,
Tell me how that officiating would have changed 27 points.
there's no doubt in my mind, if I were to ask you this question, you wouldn't tell the truth. Do you believe the officiating directly affected the final score? That is a yes or no.
No.
Conrad Thompson.
No, I mean, let's say this. I know there's one controversial call.
I was shut up when you threw little silly songs at me and your little pictures and saving it.
Okay.
Deborah would be washing your mouth out with soap right now because you are absolutely lying.
No.
Yes. The officiating.
She taught me, as a matter of fact, my father-in-law once went on TV and said,
he's
a what? A 16-time world champion? He's a what?
He couldn't tell the truth if his life depended on it. Please don't invoke Mr. Fleer.
Mr. Flea Hair, as Bruce Pritchard calls him, once went on TV and says, if you're a man, you don't cry about it. You take the ups and downs in life. If you're a real man, you never go down, you just stay up. That, my friend, is Nick Saban. He just stays up. And here they are, creeping back up into that top 10. Depending on what poll you like, coaches or AP, they're 8 or 9.
Because Tennessee slipped on a banana peel, Alabama will win the SEC championship.
Okay.
But the referees completely threw the. I mean, if Jack
first loss, was that your first loss?
If Jack Tunney was around, if Stanley Blackburn was around, if Eddie Marlin was around, they would all get in the boardroom and absolutely throw the entire game out because the referees directly affected. There he is.
Look at that fucking goof.
No,
that's the guy you're hanging your hat on. Hang on now.
You folks, we are showing a picture of an excellent college football coach, Mr. Josh Heupel.
If he was dressed in Alabama gear, you'd be making fun of him. Look at him.
Conrad.
That is a product of inbreeding. That's what happens when y'all get too close at family reunions.
He's from Oklahoma. You be nice. JR will smack the shit out of you. Listen, pal.
His chin's still there.
Did you like Mr. Heupel's response when they asked him about the officiating?
I know he likes to cry about it. I'd like to see what happened in the second half. 0 points. You can't even get a field goal, son. Look, you can't get a field goal.
You play against 11 players, a home cooked crowd, and 7 officials. There is a time and place that it just becomes impossible.
Here's what I want you to do.
I'm protesting this.
I want you to go back and listen to the episode after last year's game. You know there was just as many questionable calls.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Did I get on here and cry about it? Absolutely not. Because I knew, guess what? Alabama's going to restore order next year. And they did.
No, Conrad.
I'll be honest.
Very, very controversial open to the show. We got a controversial podcast coming up. Lots of controversy going on. Oh, yes. And you're going to, I just right now take it to Judge Silva, Judge Cassio, and maybe Judge Bromwell, ad-free Supreme Courts.
They're all on my side.
No, they're not.
Oh, yeah. Maybe Bromwell waffles for Karen, but that's it. I mean, you got big heat with him. You know that. Monster heat.
Cassio.
Mega heat. White hot heat.
Cassio, because he don't want to get slapped again.
Cassio's dead. He died over the weekend in a Guar concert.
No, he did.
Yeah, he's dead. I did a eulogy for him.
God rest his soul. Well, on to the next one. So he's dead. Yeah. I'll bring in K-Dog from Canada.
Oh, K-Dog's on my side. K-Dog made that. Let's see what you're going to look like on the third Saturday in October again. We're going to have some of our ad-free family members, Coach Rosie and Efren and the whole game. There you are right there. I can't believe you're going to walk like that through downtown Knoxville too. That's going to be crazy. I'm pretty excited. I like the cod piece Alabama logo. Look at that. That's that Roll Tide coming at you.
Conrad, we need to get on the show. The non-football fans.
I know they hate it. And you know what? They were already tagging me about, oh, great. I can't wait. There's going to be at least an hour of football talk. And I replied, maybe more.
Oh,
maybe more.
You know what? No, people, they don't care so much about our football talk. When you accept a tainted victory, it's the moral integrity that you're blasting on this show. This show has integrity.
I do podcasts with Eric Bischoff and Bruce Pritchard, and you're talking to me about integrity? I made my decision a long time ago.
You know what? I may get Brother Bruce involved. He may actually, on this case, I think my hotshot legal defense team, Mr. Bischoff and Mr. Pritchard, would rectify this situation. If we have to have ad-free court and get all the parties involved, there's no doubt.
We'll bring JBL in and let JBL make the call.
Deal.
We're going to go to podcaster court.
Okay.
Not wrestler court.
Podcaster court.
Podcaster court.
Yep.
And we'll have JBL make a decision on it.
I'm more than tickled to death with that outcome.
And we'll have the Honorable Jerry Briscoe assign whatever the sentence may be.
Now hold on.
I know you're getting a little worried about cowboys and Indians, but don't worry, you're not a real cowboy.
Oh my Lord, biggest bunch of crap. It is what other than Saturday night, me spanking old Kingston's ass right there in the FedEx Forum. It was a rough weekend. Yeah, there it is. There's the last outlaw right before he got his hand raised. Conrad.
Listen,
did you have the opportunity to watch that ass whipping?
I watched it live. I was actually watching a movie with my wife, and I was monitoring the AEW social account. And when they said that it was about to get kicked off and showed you walking to the ring or something, I jumped over. I had it paused on YouTube TV, fast forwarded to exactly where you were, and I said, "Hang on, baby, we got to watch this one live." And then at the end,
poor Megan.
I know, my wife, God bless her soul. She goes, "Well, that wasn't very much of a win now, was it?"
It was a strong as hell win. 1, 2, 3. That's about as
And I said, "Now, did you not see his shoulders touch the mat? The ref counted 3.
That's right."
She goes, "It took like 5 or 6 of them to beat him." Yeah, he's that strong.
That's semantic.
Like, Eddie Kingston in 2023 is Hulk Hogan 88. I think we all agree with that. Although Hogan may have been a little tanner. Other than that, that's pretty much it. But here's what I'm proud of, and I'm not kidding about this. Somebody, everything's wrestling. Somebody online did a little research.
Oh, gosh.
And they found an interesting stat. Scott E. Wrestling says Jeff Jarrett has had more matches in AEW this year than Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, Takeshita, Jay White, Hangman Page, MJF, Christian Cage, Eddie Kingston, Chris Jericho, Sheeta, Britt Baker, Riho, and the Young Bucks. 7 of his 25 have been title matches. No, the more you know. Jeff Jarrett is the real MVP, or should we say EVP of AEW. More matches than all those guys. Wow, look at you. This wasn't even the original plan.
No.
You were supposed to be up there playing grab ass with Raphael Morphy. And look at you getting out there strutting ass, winning titles.
I ain't won no title. Let's not get
Whoa. You and I both know you won those tag titles.
Well, that's true.
And that two-timing
Aubrey,
two-faced Aubrey Edwards, that's bad officiating. If we're going to call out bad officiating, we got to call it when we see it. Aubrey Edwards is the worst.
Only official worse than Aubrey is the Alabama officials from Saturday night in Tuscaloosa.
I love that it's Tuscaloosa.
I'm so frustrated. It's been a long day, folks. As we're recording this, as Conrad likes to say, sometimes we record on Fridays. Every now and then we'll do a Saturday. We've done Sunday afternoons, middays. Usually it's Monday morning.
And Jeff says at 10:30, and he said to me casually the other day, "I know I'm always on time." I was like, "Really?" Marcus and I, we might disagree, but still, we're here before Monday evening.
Yes.
Right before Monday Night Football. I'm pretty excited about that. And I hear there's wrestling on Monday nights, but I know we can't talk about
Oh, we can talk about it if you want. Red hot product. But yeah, it's been a long day, Conrad. The Tennessee Titans just traded Byard, our best DB, leader of the defense for several years. They traded him
for Burrow.
No, God, Burrow couldn't. He's not welcome here. But they traded our guy to the Philadelphia Eagles, where we sent A.J. Brown. So Zapato, I'm going to screw up every name I can today. Yeah, Mr. Sabato. Yeah, the Eagles got another Titan player to help them.
I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know if you saw, but they just signed Julio Jones as well. So a former Alabama standout up there now with Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. And dude, the Eagles are a household favorite here in my house. My wife fell in love with Mr. Kelsey and his story on that fabulous documentary over on Amazon Prime. And of course, I was already a Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith guy. Now they got Julio too. I'm like, oh yeah, I like it.
Did you see speaking about the Kelsey brothers, how the older brothers, if it wasn't for him, Travis may not even be playing ball?
Yeah.
When he got kicked off. Yeah. Okay. That's
all in that documentary. It's really, really good. Oh, wow. And I would highly recommend you watch it. I know you don't watch TV, but that doesn't count. It's a football documentary. I think you would really, really enjoy it. And something I know that we can always enjoy is peace of mind. And you remember all those insurance ads on the radio when you were a kid? Probably not, because, well, that was something your parents had to worry about. Well, guess what? Now you're the parent. And now's the time to get life insurance to help to protect your family. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it quick and easy to get a high quality policy so your family is covered if the unexpected happens. You see, Fabric was designed by parents for parents to help you get a high quality, surprisingly affordable term life insurance policy in less than 10 minutes. Fabric has flexible policies that fit your family and your budget, with quality policies like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. Get your personalized quote in just minutes and then apply when it's convenient for you. It's all online and on your schedule. You could go from start to covered in less than 10 minutes with no health exam required. Maybe you're not sure if life insurance is right for you. Why not take Fabric's quick 60-second quiz to find out for sure? You see, there's no risk to apply. They even have a 30-day money-back guarantee. And by the way, you can cancel at any time. Fabric is partnered with Gerber Life, and they've been trusted by millions of families just like yours over the last 5 decades. With over 1,700, that's right, 1,700 5-star reviews, they're even rated as excellent on Trustpilot. By the way, Fabric has more than just life insurance. They're also a digital platform that's really easy and helps you create wills and access college savings funds and even manage your family's finances right on your phone. So now your family is protected and ready for anything. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/myworld. That's meetfabric.com/myworld. That's meetfabric.com/myworld. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Jeff, we've had a lot of fun. Of course, we can keep up with what's going on with you guys over at AEW TIX. I understand Jay Lethal very shortly is going to take his rightful spot on top of the Ring of Honor World Championship mountain. And you never know what's next for the real MVP, certainly the real EVP of AEW, Double J Jeff Jarrett. At this point, I hope they put you in a 3-way dance with MJF and Kenny Omega. And just like Roman Reigns did with Edge and Bryan Danielson, you just stack both their bodies on top of each other and just, do a little pose. And ain't I great? And ding, and done. Strut out of there with the gold. I'm ready for it, dude. I believe in you.
You've got me so flustered.
I'm not trying to get you heat when I get on here and call you an EVP. I'm not trying to do that.
You just said we're having a lot of fun here, and I'm going back to, I really thought that you would come today and say, hey, Jeff, yes, we're business partners, but me and you go way, way past that. We're like, oh, right? Wouldn't you say
you're one of my best friends? We talk every day in real life.
So with that being said,
yeah,
you're actually
Really proud of what happened on Saturday. I sure am.
Well, via technology, you're looking me eye to eye. It's as if we're sitting next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we invoked Larry and Deborah and CG.
Yeah. Do it.
Cassie, all that. And you actually think that Alabama won fair and square, and you're gonna accept the outcome as finality and go through with the bet.
Yep, because
I thought our friendship went deeper. I'm taking
wrong. You were wrong.
I mean, I guess in a lot of ways, just maybe I'll call Joe Park, because Joe Park.
Both of you crybaby bitches can hang out together. Here's the deal. 27-0 in the second half. It's inexcusable. Shame on you for suggesting you should have won a game when you couldn't touch painted grass. If it was, I mean, it was like y'all were allergic to painted grass.
Oh, Lord.
It was embarrassing. And I'll be honest, I'm not gonna lie. I thought y'all had us in the first half, but then I realized y'all collectively are low down, dirty, and as we've heard on this very podcast, you've proved the point. Y'all some snitches.
Can I give an update on Trap That Thing?
Let's do it. I would love to hear what's going on with that. What was it? Pepe Le Bureau. Pepe Le Burrow.
Smell in the cell.
Smell in the cell.
It was a couple of names, all that. Conrad, that's another little point of contention. Yeah, look, I am very grateful for so many things in life, but I am so sick and tired. I got more text off of this podcast on, where do you live, dude? Or do you live in the same? I got that several folks. Hey, man, do you live in that same house? Yeah. Well, where are all the skunks at? Conrad?
It's your house. They're at your house.
This ain't Jesus. This ain't Jesus's dad. This is the grand poobah that we saw last night or this morning at about 4:07 a.m. A monster.
Wait, are you saying this is Andre the Skunk?
Yeah, it is. It is super, super, super heavyweight skunk. We saw another one. It's like, how many are in this freaking on this cul-de-sac? So yeah, Conrad, been a little rough, pal. Rough.
So instead of Rikishi and the stink face, it's the skunk face.
Yes.
Now, how big do you think this one? I mean, are you going to post this to social? Can we see this rascal on social?
As we speak, the trap is set.
Oh, so you don't have him yet?
No, we got to catch him.
Oh, okay.
We got to catch him.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you right now. I'm pulling for the skunk.
You know what?
When you will get on here and be honest and just admit that y'all totaled an ass whooping on Saturday, I'll be back on your team. But in the meantime, I think this should be your penance. You're going to have to suffer through some more stink in your life.
Hold on. I'm texting Karen. I just forgot something.
Now, don't text her that I said that. I don't need real heat.
No. I'm not. I've been something about, oh Lord, the trap. It's okay. Let's roll. Enough of this nonsense.
Well, we're going to talk about a stinky part of your life, I suppose.
Have we talked? When did we record last? What about CMLL? Yeah, CMLL, Mystico.
How about that?
Have we talked about that since I met? Yeah, we did. Salvador.
Yeah, we covered it.
Okay, never mind. Yeah, I just thought it was really cool.
I thought it was really cool that wrestling history was made. You know, for so long there was this talk of this forbidden door. The idea that there's a company working with both AAA and CMLL, that's really the forbidden door.
Yeah,
it happened.
Yeah,
it happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't know if we covered that. But
when do you think you'll beat Mystico? You think you'll beat him this Saturday night?
I think it's booked for. I'm 25 matches in. I think it's up around my 50th match of this year. So we got several to get there.
So you're going to be wrestling twice a week on TV to get 25 more matches this year.
Stop.
Hey, serious business. If I would have sat down with Jeff, week 2 of our podcast, here we are on episode 129, 127 weeks ago. If I would have sat down and said, Jeff, you know, in 2023, you're going to wrestle more than 25 times, most of those being on TV, 7 of those being in title matches. Would you believe that?
I would have believed that less than what I believe today, that you're taking this, you want to go through on this bet after the shady outcome that happened. I'd believe that. No, Conrad, seriously, a Memphis street fight, which we haven't even covered. Dave Brown.
Yeah, called the match. Unbelievable.
I mean, I definitely don't lose sight of that. Dave walked in.
Did you hear the commentary?
Of course not. No, I didn't.
Well, let me give you a line. Somebody, I think it was Kevin Kelly, maybe, said, and everybody knows who the king of Memphis is. And Dave Brown goes, well, there's been 3.
Oh,
right?
3?
3.
Okay, I want to hear this.
And he says one, and I forget. And then he says Elvis Presley. And then he says, and of course, and Nigel McGuinness cut him off and said, Jeff Jarrett. And Mr. Brown goes, well, that's not what I was going to say. I just thought it was tremendous that Nigel, like, nope, we're not going to say that name on TV. Jeff Jarrett.
Wow.
Go back and watch the commentary.
I definitely will. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's but see, a street fight in Memphis. I'm just going to throw it in there. I did media all day in Memphis, and what a really cool day it was it just
your old stomping grounds.
Yes. We ended up driving my rental car because I said, I know where I'm going. Don't worry about it. I got this. We're going out here, all this. Got to go by Le Bonheur Hospital. I say that not just the technology. Seacrest Studios is in certain hospitals, Conrad. It's pretty cool. So got to go in the studio, and there was some patients there, some children there, and we laughed and cut up and that kind of stuff. But it streamed to every hospital room in the hospital. And they have the ability, because Ryan Seacrest Foundation has these in multiple hospitals, that they just, it's the visits that you do now are just so different than you used to be, with just the technology and the games we played and the cutting up and all that kind of stuff. It was super cool. But where I was going with this was when I did all the media stops and talking about the history and all that. But then when you pull it around to tomorrow night, AEW Tix, FedEx Forum, go all that. My opponent is Eddie Kingston. That story alone is such, like, my dad would have been so, he would have made the fact, he'd probably got Eddie's mother on camera and saying, can we talk about how you rewarded your son, 10, 11, 12 years old? Well, yeah, sure. Because what Eddie's mother did was, if Eddie was a good little boy, she let him watch Memphis's Bloodiest Brawls. That's the first VHS tape. So he loves Japanese wrestling, but he said, without question, Memphis wrestling and Japanese wrestling are what made him fall in love with this industry. So for Eddie being in the street fight, and me and Karen and obviously the history with the crew, but it was really a cool night, a page out of, well, you just said in 127 episodes, would I've thought that if you would have wrote, hey man, going into episode 129, you're going to be in a street fight in Memphis against a guy who grew up on Memphis wrestling and all that. Just no, Conrad, I do not lose sight of it. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Very.
What's amazing to me too is even if we would have thought, okay, I could see that, I think even you would have said, maybe a few WWE matches, but if I'm doing that many matches, I'm probably doing some independent bookings. But if I would have doubled down and said, no, it'll be in AEW and you'll have more matches than Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, you would have been like, well, that's just not possible, but it's real. Jeff Jarrett, the real MVP of AEW, the more you know. Hey, listen, before we get going, we are going to be talking about Dixie Carter today. She is our topic and our subject. Some big news happened over the weekend. There was a phenomenal pay-per-view put together by Scott D'Amore and the rest of the fine folks at Impact Wrestling. And at the end of that show, they announced that TNA Wrestling is returning. We're back is the announcement. TNA. So no more Impact. Now it's going to be called TNA. A lot of fans are excited about this. They're even going with the old school TNA logo, the OG logo. And I like it. And I think, like a lot of people, have still called it TNA most of the time anyway. Were you surprised to see that they're going back to the old nostalgia name of TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling?
You know, Conrad, I mean, on this topic alone, you know, I could go down so many rabbit holes and so many avenues. I'd heard rumblings, and, you know, boy, Conrad, do you really want to open up this can of worms? But yes, I'm surprised in a few different ways in that the conversations that I had with Anthem, I'll just leave it at that, all the way at the highest levels and all those, is that I was pretty clear with them that, hey guys, in my opinion, Impact Wrestling, naming that the company, was almost dead on arrival in 2011 and 12. The tagline, Wrestling Matters, and all that kind of stuff. But I said, I just think Impact Wrestling is dead, the television show. And so, Conrad, not to, you know, go on and on and on about it, but I had those conversations in depth and gave them the history, but they are well aware of it. They bought the show Impact from day one. Anthem did. So they knew that it was TNA Wrestling presents Impact. And so going down that road and knowing, okay, not a big fan of it. And that's where, in my mind, hey, let's, if you don't like Global Force Wrestling, I even said that, hey, we can figure some kind of way and use a storyline and go back to TNA. There's a lot of equity. Your library is named that. The international partners have always, and that's, Conrad, you said, you're like the international partners. There are many, many places, India specifically, Australia in a lot of ways. They never, ever quit calling it TNA Wrestling. And
Right.
The double entendre isn't near as prevalent outside of the U.S. In so many markets. So all the I guess you could say information in my head, that's why I was like, okay, so now 5 years, 6 years after you acquired it, you're rebranding. So that would be a little bit of surprise to me. But then at the end of the day, it's all execution. It's all, what is Scott's bit? That is what I'm most optimistic about, is that, okay, Scott, what's your vision of TNA? You know, I know what mine was. I'm well aware, and you know, and we can talk about all the different things, the 4 different divisions, how's that going to be positioned or promoted, the 6-sided ring, there's just a lot of, to me, there's a lot of nuances, but at the end of the day, it's the story. And I was blessed with fantastic talent, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe. We could go through on that list, but I'm excited because it's good for the industry. Change is good. That there is, without question, you know, I've worked, Conrad, since 5:15 this morning. So, and I drove home yesterday and did a bunch of other stuff. So I haven't dove into too deep online what the online feedback is, but change is good. But I'm sure it's a lightning rod. I'm sure some people, well, Conrad, I'm asking you, but I would think some people hate it, some people love it. But I do think change is good. My one thing that I immediately thought was, have they been doing a storyline to bring it along, that there's a group of Impact? I don't know. And to my knowledge, they haven't. And I think back to, who would have ever thought WCCW, the Von Erich name, tried and true, and drew lots and lots of money through the years, and just so many. But with the no shows and the way the business was turned upside down there, who would have ever thought that USWA would have been the babyface name and WCCW would have been the heel name? But that's kind of the storyline that we went down. And so I think you could have done a hell of a storyline out of this and really got the current watchers of Axis or Impact Wrestling because, you know, you got to do social media changes, the rebranding. Boy, oh boy, it's so much easier said than done. It is a full lift. So I'm optimistic, and it sounds like they got till January to kind of complete the thing. I just hope if they haven't, that they kind of get into a storyline to bring the people along, because I think it's a real, authentic story, and the people can be brought along in the story with it. As a long-winded answer, Connie, but there's no doubt. I told Karen this. You know, what are your thoughts? And I said, well, for me to sit here and say that I'm not emotionally tied to that, when you put your own money up and see it go from a dream to a reality, I will forever be somewhat emotionally tied to it. But I wish Scott and the team nothing but the best, and I hope they take it to heights that it's never been before.
Well, they did a great job with the pay-per-view over the weekend. Highly recommend you check it out. Will Ospreay and Mike Bailey, tore it down.
Tore it down, I bet.
You got to go out of your way to see that. But the buzz is not just about the name change that happened at the end of the show, but what happened right before the show went to air.
What's that?
I think the word is out that Ace Steel is now working in a backstage producer capacity for Impact.
Heard that.
And the show was in Chicago. And just before they went live on pay-per-view, they were visited by one Phil Brooks, aka CM Punk, hanging out backstage at Impact. And then, of course, he went across town, went to the United Center, and introduced his Blackhawks. So it was a pretty big day for Mr. CM Punk in Chicago. Of course, United Center, last time his name was said there was maybe not on the best of terms, but the Blackhawks welcomed him with open arms. And my goodness, man, CM Punk hanging out backstage at an Impact Wrestling show. And at the end of the show, they call themselves TNA. Along the way, Mike Bailey and Will Ospreay had what I've read multiple people describe online as being the best singles match of the year.
Oh,
Feels
wow.
like there's a lot of momentum, a lot of buzz. I'm pulling for Scott D'Amore and the team. I felt like they've been one of the best kept secrets in wrestling for a long time. And I felt like they had maybe, for whatever reason, lost some consumer confidence, and folks weren't willing to give them a second chance. Because I'm telling you, if you actually attend a show, you'll be blown away with their production and the quality of the matches and the quality of the performance of the folks in the ring. And if you watch it on TV, it'll be the same thing. Like, it will surprise you. So I want to vouch for it. If it's sort of been LOL TNA for you, how about take another look? Seems like they got a lot of momentum right now. And if you find yourself frustrated with what you see on another program, why not give it a shot? I've enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it even more in person. It's one thing to watch wrestling on TV, Jeff. It's a whole nother thing to be there. And I had a great time at the Impact shows I've attended over the last year or so. And I recommend everybody go out of their way to check it out. And we'll have to wait and see what happens with Mr. Punk and Impact Wrestling. How about that?
Business is picking up all over, you know. I mean, I say that the industry, we referenced CMLL earlier.
Yeah.
That is a big historic deal. It's early, so we'll see where it goes. The Impact TNA rebrand is early. We'll see where that goes. You know, we've got LA coming up at the Forum. Obviously, WWE. What's their next one? Saudi. Conrad, we've said it over and over and over how healthy the industry is, and I just don't see it slowing down. Just you know, you were talking earlier about YouTube TV. Technology is everyone's friend, and the way to consume content is, my gosh, wrestling just can create so much content, much more inexpensive. You know, they just, that's why we've always, and I got to share that story a few times on Friday. Hey, why was Memphis TV so highly rated, and why did it continue? Well, candidly, wrestling is very inexpensive to produce live, comparatively speaking, to anything else. And that's it. Business is healthy, man. It's really healthy. That's a good thing. That's a great thing.
And business is good for us here at adfreeshows.com. Jeff, last month we announced that we're doing our first ever Top Guy Rumble event. It's coming to Tampa Bay during Royal Rumble weekend in January, and we've just locked down our venue for it. As ad-free shows, Top Guys members will be taking over the beautiful Marriott on the beach, the winner of the 2022 Marriott Hotel of the Year. Myself, along with Eric Bischoff, with a few fun surprise guests, along with our Top Guy members, will be hanging out January 26th and 27th for a Royal Rumble watch party. You can still be a part of it. Become a Top Guy member before month's end, and you'll be eligible to join us on the beach for a weekend of wrestling, surprises, and fellowshipping with some of your favorite podcast hosts and fellow ad-free shows members. Sign up this week at adfreeshows.com. So, Jeff, we're finally here. Let's talk about our topic, man. Dixie Carter. We've touched on Dixie a lot in the past. We had a whole episode dedicated to her. It's available now over at myworldonyoutube.com. Let's just pick up where we left off. I guess we'll talk about 2005. Dusty Rhodes is running creative in 2005. You know, we've, as wrestling fans, heard a lot about the relationship that Dusty had with the Crockett's, and eventually the relationship he would have with the WWE down at the Performance Center. But not a lot of people know about the relationship Dusty had with the Carter family, specifically with Dixie. Can you speak to that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's pretty simple. It goes without saying. Conrad, didn't I just send you that GIF or something about Dusty and the midget? I feel like
a midget, a beaten off in the trash can. It never gets old for me and Crowbar. We send it to each other at least once every 10 days.
Okay. But no, Dusty, it is, let me think where to dive off into this, because the Jeff Dixie relationship, a lot of times sounds more complicated than it really was. And that other times the context on the situation really blew things out of control. But it was like a lot of business partners, very up and very down. And I've said it over and over and over on multiple different episodes. And I take, full responsibility for not being aware of this one simple thing: goal alignment. Our goals in day-to-day operations of TNA Entertainment were not the same. So as we rolled into 2005, so started in June of 2002. We had made the move to Orlando. We had done, I don't know, a little over 2 years, a little over, 110 episodes of the Wednesday night pay-per-views. But a big part of those Wednesday night pay-per-views is Dusty was living in Atlanta at the time. From a personal point of view, kind of going through some rough patches. His promotion, Turnbuckle, I think was up and down, but me and Dusty always got along really well. Actually much better than him and my father, but that's a whole different, they were at different stages of their life. But when Dusty started coming up, it was me and Dusty's relationship, that my dad was obviously there, but from almost as a mentor, I wanted to always sound things off on Dusty. But most importantly he was, this sounds so simplistic, not just a legend's legend, but Dusty could tell a story on a week-to-week basis, and he could do the talking for 4 or 5 people in the ring legitimately at the same time. He could get the story over no matter what. So I used him a lot. Old Dusty was so old school. I smile about and think about, 02, 03, 04. Dusty only had one deal. We had his money in cash ready when he walked in the door. He didn't want to wait till after the show. He wanted it to be hand delivered to him as he basically got to the arena. And that happened the entire time until we kind of got going to Orlando. But during that process, Dusty's a Texan, the Carters are Texans. And so he started his conversations with Dixie, which obviously gravitated over toward Bob and Janice. And as things rolled along, things got really tense, almost on a day-to-day basis, Conrad, between me and the Carters, because the pressure was on. They wanted an ROI. At one point, we're going to get into that in late 04, 05. They basically, they never came out and said it. Well, yeah, they did, but they were. We felt like we were pushing them in a direction from a financial perspective that we weren't really sure, but they never came out and said that. But we told them, hey, if you guys are ready to get out, we'll go search for money. And we did. I don't want to get too far in front of the story, but as those things were going along and we collectively, a guy named Sam Copeland was instrumental in getting the Fox Sports deal. So I don't want to get too far ahead, Conrad, but I think that brought us up to speed what the Dusty relationship was with TNA. That's how it started, and this is kind of where we're at in the story.
Did Dixie recognize the talent and legacy and just legendary status of Dusty?
How could you not? I mean, and what I'm saying is, not even if you didn't even watch the live component of the show, just backstage, Dusty walked in, guys come up to him, talking, his charisma, him throwing out ideas. I'm sure she could even read my body language that I would say, hey, Dusty, what do you think about this or that, or we're going this direction or that direction? Just kind of the respect we all showed him. But then obviously, in the ring, he certainly wasn't doing any X Division moves, but his charisma said it all. In his mouth, his promo skills said it all. So absolutely, Dixie and her family recognize that, we're dealing with a legend here.
I don't mean this to be funny, but Bruce Pritchard has told stories before that Bob Carter would go to like the country club and, play golf with his buddies or whatever, and just mention, hey, you ever heard of Hulk Hogan? You know him? Yeah, he works for me. That it was like a feather in the cap that he had a legend like that under his employ, if you will. Do you think he felt the same way about Dusty, or was that maybe not the case?
Bob didn't play golf, but no. No, I would say that's a yes. I mean, they understood Hulk, Dusty, JR to a certain extent. They understood that those guys. Look, I go back to the meeting in Dallas when me and my father were there. Go back to the meeting in the Spike TV meeting. It's when you have, my dad used to call it the gray hair effect. When you have a gentleman at the table at this time, he's in his late 60s, early 70s, I guess, who is a lifer promoter, and now his son's falling in his footsteps. Without saying anything, it says a lot. So when you kind of look at Dusty Rhodes and talk to Dusty, his legacy spoke for itself. And Bob, in a great way, he knew what he didn't know, period.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well said. So one last question. You mentioned just almost in passing that you got along better with Dusty than your dad did. Can you give us some context for that? Is that because they both, in theory, quote unquote, ran their own territory, or was there more to it?
No, I think it's, look, when you kind of look at, and look, that might have been my perception, maybe not reality, but my dad was, how do I say this? Not one of the boys. He was one of the 22 promoters.
Yes.
Dusty was
trying to wear both hats,
and he did a damn good job of it, I'd have to say.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that negative. You know what I mean.
I know. What I'm saying is, and so my old man understood that, but there is a quote unquote conflict of interest when he's booking a show and they come in and he's not one of the boys. Like the boys that worked the Liberty Bowl opposite us, my dad had immense respect for all of them, as well as I do. He didn't much care for Crockett, running the Great American Bash, because in his mind, hey man, let Junior, and I'm talking about Vince Jr., Vince, let him take it national. But Jimmy, your father taught you better than this. You're going national, and that's okay, and do what you got to do. But you're going to come in here and run opposition to Memphis? Aren't we?
Well, they did try to do a partnership. They did run one joint show, and that's that show that you and I have talked about before, where there was rumor and innuendo. Would they do something with Lawler and swap the belt? And I guess that was something that your dad and Lawler really advocated for. And I imagine in the end, Jimmy and Dusty, they weren't so keen on that.
And I get that. I mean, look, hindsight's 20. I get all that, but you kind of asked that. I always think there was kind of so much water under the bridge.
I get you. But just residual heat, leftover, unresolved feelings as a normal human being.
I'm going to say this. This is my perception. Because at this point in 2002, 3, 4, my old man had done construction and 3 or 4 other businesses, and he's back into TNA. Dusty had gone down the road with Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. I don't know his exact relationship with WWE at this time, but he wasn't working for them. And he was excited to come up and do the Asylum shows every Wednesday. And Dusty, that's the thing that I most fondly remember about Dusty. When he showed up on Wednesdays, man, shoot, you couldn't ask for a more giving heart and mind. And I'll take that to eternity. Dusty really tried to help Jeff. That's simple.
Let's talk about FSN. You're on Fox Sports Net at this time. What was the relationship with FSN and TNA with regard to Dixie Carter? How involved with that deal was she? Or
well, I mean, obviously, her family's the one that ended up as a time buyer, wrote the check. But the initial meeting, George Greenberg, who runs now PFL, and trying to think, there's another Fox execs. But we went out and just kind of discussed it. And again, we've kind of, not to be too repetitive, but Fox Sports Network is a network built up of, at that time, 18, 16, regional networks. So that meant in Baltimore, they played the Orioles, and in Phoenix, they played Phoenix Sports. In the South, they played the Braves. So these 22 regional networks, to try to get a national clearance where the content ran at the same time everywhere in the market, that's how we landed on Friday afternoon. Tony Khan and a bunch of other folks, that's the first time they had ever actually got to see TNA wrestling. But the relationship was me, my father, Dixie, and like I just referenced, Sam just passed.
Wait, hang on. Did you say Tony never saw the Wednesday pay-per-view, Aaron?
I may be wrong on that. I just know
There's no chance he didn't see that.
Okay, so but I just know he watched Fox Sports because he's some stories about he would have to submit a paper and he would get it in early on Friday so he could go watch it or something.
I love it.
I love those kind of footnotes, trivia notes. So, but yeah, that's the reality.
So let's talk a little bit about the rumors you sort of alluded to earlier. There were always conversations that, hey, the Carters are pulling out. They're tired of writing checks. And that starts to really percolate a lot in 04 and 05. And in 05, it's actually addressed in the Torch. Wade would write this: Dixie Carter addressed the staff and crew of wrestlers before lockdown on Sunday. She said the rumors of TNA going out of business soon are incorrect. She said they have committed to this big project and they're sticking with it. Without being overly specific, she said they've had some big announcements coming up soon. She did announce that they would be airing on Eurosport in more than a dozen European countries. Quote, "We want what she said to be true," said one TNA wrestler. "Everyone wants this place to work." The consensus from multiple sources in TNA is that the belief is that the talent is more than adequate, but the booking isn't, nor are business operations in general. Quote, "It's crazy that they keep nickel and diming the people who were bleeding for them. Meanwhile, they don't even have a decent cable slot yet or their DVDs in stores. Management can't keep asking everyone to sacrifice if they don't seem to be running the business side smartly." So there's some criticism to some of the boys, to Wade, but you are hearing or feeling some of this without it being just outright said. And then you said eventually they did outright say it. How close was TNA to having the Carters pull the plug on it in 04 and 05?
Now, in hindsight, zero chance. They were invested. Look how it turned out, but when you get that sense of feeling and you ask, hey, do you guys want out? And you don't really get the answer, then you kind of get the answer. And then you, in my mind and in my father's mind, we said, hey, let's not wait on them to make a decision. Let's go find a partner. Let's go find multiple partners. Let's go do what we got to do to survive. And they gave our blessing. They, yep, see what you can do. And we went and we were talking to multiple people and had, let's just say there was more than enough interest. But the one that was like, yes, can I fly to meet everybody? I would like to do this. How can we, just that was super engaged in it. And that, how do I say this? Tell you what, that is an education. That was a lesson that will never, ever be taught in a classroom. Because
how so?
Because when you bring someone to the table and say, yep, I'm in, let's make this work. And Bob Carter didn't give the guy the time of day, and it wasn't because of his financial standing whatsoever. But I mean, this guy, you go.
It's not Toby Keith, or it is Toby Keith?
No, it's not.
Well, why are you being coy? Why can't you tell us who it was? Does it matter?
I thought I was waiting on you. I think it's in the notes. Bill Edwards.
Okay.
He's a mortgage dude.
How did you meet Bill Edwards?
Actually through, I think, Ron Harris. I know it was a story about Savage, and he was connected to Savage, but it was really through, I think the original introduction was through Ronnie.
And I mean, how did you said the Carters just shut it down? Bob wasn't interested at all. Didn't give him the time of day. What was that about? Like, did you get any?
Well, I mean, they came to a Wednesday night show. We had a meeting beforehand and a little bit afterwards, and hey, let's move forward. And they just let Bill and his team know, we're not interested. Thanks.
Wow.
That told me.
Yeah. That was just a way to keep everybody on their toes. It was a control. It was about manipulating emotions.
Yes. And what I'm saying is I don't fault them at all. Like, okay, that's bravo. But I understood that's the reality of the situation. That
Wait, what do you mean you don't fault them at all? Bravo. You mean in terms of just keeping everybody aware that, this could end and we got to step our game up and all that?
Well, yeah. I mean, if they so choose, they could have run it in the ground.
Yeah.
And nobody gets it. It's my ball. I'm burning it, and I'm not saying they do that, but they told me, don't go look for that. Told me real quick. Money.
We protest too much. Yeah.
The money wasn't the issue.
Well, I'm curious on the dust.
Remember, back to goal. I'm sorry to loop it in. Back to goal alignment. I learned, had I just kind of had my eyes open, it was never about the finances.
Listen, you've said that at the start of the show, and I know we've talked about that briefly before. And you have told me in real life, when we first started working together, that almost every struggle that was created in business or personal or romantic or any relationship could have been solved with better communication.
Yes.
And so we want to have an effort in our business venture here to over communicate, if there's such a thing, rather than just making assumptions and trying not to bother the other person. And maybe that's why we talk every day. But you said goal alignment, and I don't know your goals, but I do feel like I know you fairly well. And I would imagine your goal back then was, hey, this is a for-profit business, boys and girls. Let's try to get this thing as big as we can in an effort to make as much money as we can. Not necessarily as big as we can just because we want to be big.
Oh,
we're trying to squeeze out as much profit from our business as we can. So I feel like the Jeff I know is, Hey, this is a business. How do we make the most money? How do we net profit the most money? So if I'm led to believe that that is your goal, what was Dixie's goal?
I believe the Carter's goal was for them to own a wrestling business that Dixie ran.
Is that the rest? Is that the full statement? That's the full sentence?
That's the number one goal.
Okay. What?
And I hope that didn't come out harsh, but that's my belief.
You wanted to do whatever it took to bring as much money to your household as possible. Fair to say?
Profit. Yes. Yeah,
and to be clear, I mean, if we're going to be selfish for a minute, I like to say that every now and again. Let me be selfish here.
Okay.
You wanted to say, I want the company to be profitable, but I'd kind of like to bring as much money to my household as I can. That's kind of why all of us go to work. I know some of us are listening to that, and people hear that and say, "Oh, so he just does this for the money." Why are you getting up at 7:00 and going to work, Skippy? Like, we're all trying to make as much money as we can.
Yes.
And if the boss came around and said, "Hey, who'd like a raise?" I reckon your hand would go up. I mean, everybody wants to make more money. So I get that. We just got to step back from wrestling for a minute and appreciate this is a job. It is a business, trying to make as much money as possible. But the Dixie thing, we want Dixie to be able to live her dream of being the boss of a wrestling company. That was the goal. You felt like?
So, and it's funny that we kind of joked around at the top of this episode. In 2002, Conrad, I made the conscious decision to follow in the family's footsteps and become a third generation promoter, which meant my in-ring time was going to be coming to an end sooner rather than later. Because if you're running a company, now look, I'd watched in the Attitude Era, Vince McMahon, the billionaire, own it, but he did one-offs and he's specials, but he damn sure wasn't out making every live event, no. All that. So that was my goal to what you just said. At 35 years of age, Conrad, I was not independently wealthy. I had to, and I'm still not. Conrad, money was my goal because it's what you just said. Needed paycheck, needed to make money. I wanted to get up to a comfortable sum. The Carters were already there.
Right.
That wasn't their goal. And why should it be? Bob had built a energy company where he couldn't spend, and he could, anybody can spend. I hate to use that old saying, but anyway, he had enough money for himself and Janice and Todd and Dixie. Money wasn't their number one goal. And when I say goal alignment, I'm the idiot. I'm the dumbass that didn't really recognize. Now, wait a minute, Jeff. Your number one goal is to make money. They've already got money. That ain't their number one goal. Period. Conrad, that's on me.
Is it, I know that we don't talk about current stuff, but I think sometimes when people are really, really critical of AEW, they try to contextualize some of the decisions that are made from a financial perspective, as if this was a regular territory with the Crockett's or the Grahams or Georgia or Portland or even early Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon did not, he started the company on $1 million loan from his dad, but Vincent J. McMahon, not a billionaire. And Vincent Kennedy McMahon, when he got in the wrestling game, his family, not billionaires. So it makes sense that we sort of can't compare apples to apples here. As Bruce might say, it's apples to pomegranates. The strategy and the business approach is totally different from a small business owner, because make no mistake, that's what all these independent promoters were. Respectfully, JArrett was a small business owner.
Bingo.
And Jimmy Crockett was a small business owner. They needed to sell tickets. They needed to sell merch. They needed to sell live events, because that's how they bought big houses in Hendersonville on the lake that can get skunk infested, from selling tickets. It's not like, if this thing doesn't work out, we got oil and gas over here like the Carters do. It's a totally different animal.
Yes.
And so I just think sometimes when people are saying, oh, well, the contract value of so-and-so and the revenues for so, it's a different world. Don't try to make that comparison as apples and pomegranates. Am I making sense here?
Oh, 1,000%. And see, here's, I'll say, put the elephant in the room. I am continually amazed because in 5 years, a media conglomerate has been built.
Yes.
End of story. 5 hours, international presence, blah, blah, blah. We could go on and on and on and down like that. Yeah, we're just, and you kind of, the NFL, when you look at those, I mean, look, boy, Conrad, we're going to get into a business discussion, but you start getting into valuations and brand building and looking at different things. And, we just talked about TNA earlier, so Impact, whatever it may be, NWA, all the different deals. It's yes, they're all in professional wrestling, but the business models, I don't think one is even remotely close to the other. And out of the four, New Japan, that's a live event business. CMLL, they're really in the venue operations business. They're not even in, yes, they're a wrestling business. They operate venues. That's AAA. They don't own any venues. They're not into that. They're into the live event business. So boy, Conrad, how did we get down in this? But yes, they are all in the Twitter sphere and Instagram and YouTube under the professional wrestling genre, but business models completely different. Completely.
Just so we're clear too, I think this could be bigger now, but a handful of years ago, I saw the number floated that that Mr. Carter was worth around $5 billion. It's a lot of money.
Oh, God.
Shad Khan, though, worth about $12 billion.
Yes.
Just throwing it out there. So sometimes when people are I don't understand why they would do that. Well, they don't need to necessarily hope that Revolution does gangbusters business so they can pay their mortgage payments. It's a long-term play. And hopefully people have started to figure that out by now.
Now, go and do our communication to get us back into the episode.
Yes.
Had I
that had clicked for you back then.
That's I was gonna say, had I mentally and emotionally been mature enough or worked in the operation to go into Bob and say, Bob, I've seen your house in Mexico. I've seen your house here. I know your beautiful boat. I'm happy for you. And I know that you got all these assets because you know how to make a dollar. But with that being said, and respectfully, if you're getting into the wrestling business, it's entertainment. It's not the same. You're just kind of squeezing us out here. Would that have changed? I don't know. Because did he just want to spend X amount of dollars and have it be a small business that is family owned? I don't know. Never really got, I don't know.
In a weird way, and I don't mean for this to sound like it does, but all things are relative, right? So let me give a different example. I don't know this to be true, but I would guess somewhere along the way, one of those beautiful young JArrett girls, they said, Dad, I'm going out of town and I really want to do blah, blah, blah. Can I take a credit card? And hypothetically, they just had you wrapped around their little finger and you forked over that card. And then the statement came, and I'm just guessing, nobody's ever told me this. You might have been a little miffed at some of the decisions they made with that card. And you might have said, now, girls, I don't mind that you use this card, but darn it, next time, you better not do this, this, and that with it. We got to get this spending under control. Have conversations like that ever happened at the JArrett household?
Oh, yeah. But, well, let me say this. No, I don't give, I'm not a believer in plastic.
Well, a debit card. The point is, the girl, you've had to rein in spending of the children at some point.
Oh, who had? Yes, correct.
I'm saying all that to say that kind of sounds like what Bob was doing with Dixie here. We got to rein in the spending on this, daughter.
Where's the daylight?
We're spending too much on this. I know you want to do this wrestling stuff, but boy, this is more than I was expecting to spend, honey. Is that fair to say?
Fair, definitely fair enough. Definitely fair enough.
So the next big development that happens here is Dusty. We're going to be replacing Dusty in creative, and the Torch had this to say. The committee that Dixie Carter formed to replace Dusty Rhodes includes Bill Banks, Scott D'Amore, Jeremy Borash, Dutch Mantel, and Mike Tenay. Mike Tenay, the lead announcer for TNA, is a longtime student of the game who was laid low and observed for years what has happened in TNA, and now is said to be excited about trying to correct some of the errors of the past. Jeff Jarrett and his father Jerry are considered master politicians who have managed to talk TNA president Dixie Carter, whose family has controlling interest in TNA, into not forcing a title change for months. The main reason given time after time is that the other options, quote unquote, weren't ready yet, and it would do damage to give them the belt too soon. AJ Styles has been moved back to the X division where his size and style were an ideal fit. That left older wrestlers such as Dallas Page and Kevin Nash, or less established, inexperienced wrestlers like Monty Brown and Abyss as candidates. So I do want to talk about the whole title situation because, Lord, that seems like the story that just never ends with you, and I want to address it. But the decision that Dixie had to replace Dusty and go with a committee, talk to me about that.
See, and we might have covered it on the last episode, but Dusty getting in power and which meant he replaced me or me and my father but it was really replacing me. And it was to her defense. Hey, we've got to change. We've got to do something. I said, then do what you think's best. And by this point she had developed, a relationship with Dusty. I think Dusty did some politicking, obviously, and Bob Carter, without question, hey, let's give him a shot at this and see if something doesn't change. And I can remember Dutch, maybe my dad, or a number of people were basically saying, Jeff, you're going to do yourself a favor because do you really think something's going to take off? And I'm like, hell no. It's not going to be the magic shot in the arm. The booking at this point, we're on Fox Sports. We're trying to get traction. Let's just keep on down the road. And then it just didn't work out. Dusty, I don't think after maybe 2 TVs, 3 TVs, I wish it was in the notes how long it lasted, but Dusty didn't ever feel, I don't think he ever really felt comfortable and enjoyed himself. And it was really kind of a 6 month, I don't know, not long. And then it was, okay, that's not going to work out because I don't think, again, Dixie had an open ear to everybody. So the last person she talked to, and I'm not saying she listened to or made a decision, but oh no, Jeff was better than Dixie. Well, wait a minute. Didn't you just say 3 months ago that Jeff needed to be out and Dusty needed to be in and vice versa and all this? And Dusty didn't want to deal with all that drama. It's like, either you want me to do it or not. Okay. So now Jeff's was out however long ago, and now Dusty's in and now he's out. What are we going to do next? It always happens. Hey, let's put together a committee. And that's what they did. I mean, I think it's that simple. Let's put something together. And it's about the same time that, and we touched on this, I know, in multiple episodes, a gentleman by the name of Chris Sobel, who just was Panda's representative, who came back and forth. It turned south. He was not a good fit, to say the least. But Frank Dickerson, who was a board member of Panda Energy International and a great guy, a fantastic guy, they assigned him, hey, Frank, get over to Nashville. You don't have to get involved in the creative, and maybe please don't, but get involved in everything else, and you run the ship. So it all kind of coincides that Frank's coming over and Dusty is either out or on his way out, and now this committee's in. And, you know, Frank is a board member, but he knows that the board of Panda voted 2 years prior to do this investment, and they essentially bought Jeff and Jerry Jarrett and the opportunity. So now Frank's coming to me because by this time my dad and Dixie were, I don't say completely sideways, but there was not much going along. And I'm not sure if Dad had basically done with it by then. I think so. You know, me and Frank struck up not just a friendship, but a business relationship. And it was, times were stressful and tough during this period. They really were, for all parties involved.
It's interesting that he comes in, you know, he's being brought in as both, he being Frank Dickerson, the CEO and the CFO. And it said that this all happened at lockdown. And I guess now the edict is, according to the Observer, that since Dusty's out, all the creative has to be approved by the executive committee and Dixie and Dickerson. I want to talk to you about a few of these names that are going to be on here on this list. Scott D'Amore, we know, always had an acumen for this. He's running the show now. How did he wind up in this spot?
I mean, he was the first agent that I hired, and he had, you know, easiest way to say it is he had been in the seat since kind of day one.
Or Jeremy Borash, sort of the same thing. He'd been there day one.
And, you know, we both know JB, but he had been, yes, a part of creative, a part of the liaison creative production. He was getting his hands wet on, you know, had his hands wet at this time, producing packages. Yeah, I mean, JB wore many, many hats. So he was in the room, if you will.
Dutch Mantel, of course, a booking genius. No explanation needed. Mike Tenay, student of the game, there since day one, also makes sense. Bill Banks. How does Bill Banks wind up on the
Well, at this time, I was always, Mike Tenay, I can't say he never really wanted so much to do it, but I know instrumental, but I'm like, hey, man, Mike will be a real steady force if you're creating a committee. And then Banks was digital. You know, again, we were early adopters of YouTube, and just kind of, he had worked at WWF, you know, digital. I don't think they called it that back then, but he had been around creative and social. And so, Conrad, is that 5 members? Because I specifically remember having the conversations with Frank. I said, committees are difficult. They're, for the most part, very, very unproductive because you need one person steering the ship. But if you don't have an odd number, they're going to have votes in the room and you're going to have stalemate. Then they're going to sit around and stare at each other forever.
It's 5.
Yeah. So they had 5 guys, and, you know, so those 5 rounded it out, and they all kind of brought something different to the table. And that was the decision made. And I think, you know, in a positive way, Dixie felt comfortable. Okay, let those 5 guys go write a show and see what they come back with.
Well, it's just amazing to me that we're getting rid of one of the genius booking minds in all of wrestling, and Dusty Rhodes. And, you know, he famously said, my belly may be a little big, my honey may be a little big. I may not look like the athlete of the day, but buddy, I'm bad and they know I'm bad. Well, if you want your honey to be a little smaller and your booty to be a little smaller, but you want to eat great, Factor can hook you up. And with the busy fall season already in swing, you're probably looking for some wholesome, convenient meals for some of those jam-packed days. Well, try Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit that can help you fuel up all throughout the day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, you'll eat well, and you'll stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. This skips you or allows you to skip that trip to the grocery store. And also forget the chopping, the prepping, and the cleaning up too. These are fresh, never frozen meals ready in just 2 minutes. All you got to do is heat it up and enjoy, and then you're back at it, baby. There's over 35 different weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never frozen meals that all promote a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal preferences. like Gourmet Plus. You can get the fancy stuff like truffle butter and leeks and broccolini. Maybe you're calorie conscious. Can I recommend Calorie Smart? You get 550 calories or less per serving. My man Jeff is rocking the Protein Plus options. That's going to get him 30 grams of protein or more. They've also got an assortment of over 4 dozen add-ons. Stuff like breakfast stuff, right? Apple cinnamon pancakes. Or how about some cold pressed juices, some shakes, some smoothies? They got you covered for breakfast, for lunch. They've even got lunch on the go. How about wholesome meals like grain bowls and salad toppers? Meaning you don't even have to have a microwave. I'm telling you, Factor's the real deal. I'm rocking it again at my house. My wife just hooked me up again. I'm looking forward to having cranberry pecan chicken and some apple Dijon pork chops. All of this ready in just 2 minutes. I highly recommend it. This October, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. You just choose the meals and enjoy fresh flavor packed meals delivered right to your door, ready in just 2 minutes. No prep, no mess. Head right now to factormeals.com/myworld50. Use our code myworld50. You'll get 50% off. That's code myworld50 at factormeals.com/myworld50 to get 50% off. So Jeff, let's talk about this whole master politician thing. It's written here that they're wanting to, you and your dad are politicking to keep the belt on you, which I just think is stupid. Why would it matter? I mean, I think when people actually get to know you, they know you could not care less. What does the check look like on the direct deposit, please? And thank you. Talk to me a little bit about, what you and your dad thought of this, because the idea is, and I think we've established this, your dad was at least in somewhat regular communication with Wade over the years. And for him to read, oh, Jeff and his father, Jerry, are master politicians. That's got to hurt your dad's feelings a little bit. No,
I don't know. I mean, that'd be obviously a question we can't answer now, but just kind of the wrestling a wrestling journalist journey. That's a tongue twister. I guess they had a unique relationship. I don't obviously know all the ins and outs, but the belt deal, it's like we have almost beat this story to death, but the simplistic deal is look at the options. Me and AJ had traded it a couple of times. The Spike deal, I don't know where we're at exactly in the timeline. There's DDP. We didn't want to, I was a big, look, it's all in philosophy. Okay, we put it on Monty Brown. Great. Who's his opponents? Because once a babyface wins it, if they don't have, I just believe this wholeheartedly, if they don't have 2 or 3 opponents to rip through, their babyface championship run is considered a failure. And I think that's the last thing we wanted to do. By putting it on AJ early, we kind of knew, okay, he damn sure wasn't a transition champion, but at times we had Russo talk for him. So it was one of those things that let's build some heat around Jeff, and the story will write itself. The right opponent will come along. Is it Nash? Is it DDP? Probably not. Is it Monty Brown? Probably too soon. Can we go back to AJ Styles? Sure. But is that kind of the best move we make? Abyss, do we want to heat him up? So now we got to change it from a heel to a heel. Is that really the best way to do it? Just all those questions that we've kind of talked through at different times over and over and over. There wasn't a master plan. It's so not, here we go again. Jeff's going to try to play leverage with the championship in a company he's already the single largest shareholder of. It just doesn't, me and you are actually kind of feeding into the silly internet narrative. It just doesn't add up to me on any level, and never did.
Eventually, the Observer does point out that Jerry had been trying to secure a new backer, believed to be the multimillionaire who backed the disastrous Randy Savage CD. The idea being that you guys would use this backer to buy out Bob's majority interest, and you guys would have more control. he would report at the time, he being Dave, that the Carters, since they took over in September of 2002, have lost $20 million. Does that sound right? Between, say, the summer of 2005 and September of 2002, that feels like a lot of money.
No. But no, that's where us there. They just didn't know the numbers.
Yeah.
Period.
It comes out on the torch on June 26th. Jeff Jarrett did not wrestle in the main event of Sunday's third anniversary TNA pay-per-view Slammiversary. Although heavily advertised for the King of the Mountain match with 4 other wrestlers competing for the NWA World Heavyweight title, he bowed out of the match voluntarily. Multiple sources heard that Jarrett was upset that he wasn't being booked by the new booking committee to win the match. After spending a lot of time over the last year pushing himself as the King of the Mountain, he apparently felt it would be damaging to his character to not win that match. Dixie Carter, who has majority ownership of TNA, stood her ground and would not change her mind and have Jeff win the match. Wow. Is that real?
You know what? If I remember correctly, when did the Dusty booking, when was he in and when was he out?
He would have been out just prior to this.
Because I think he was booking me to win it. I think. But the committee was like, no, let's go down this road and put it on the, but I said, so who was in the match? Anyway, I think that what was agreed upon is let's use this to create a number 1 contender. I think that was kind of what we all defaulted on.
So as you can see there, it was Sean Waltman, Abyss, Monty Brown, and AJ Styles that were advertised. Meltzer would say, as a result, several scenarios were discussed, and they went with an angle during the pay-per-view pregame show where Jarrett would be arrested for attacking a fan and thus unable to compete. Jarrett was scheduled to be at this week's television tapings in Orlando, Florida, although with Dixie Carter exerting her power, no one in TNA is expecting smooth sailing between the Jarretts and Carter family in upcoming weeks as the struggle for power and influence continues.
So who won that match at Slammiversary? Does it say?
Let me pull it up for you here. In the main event, we had Raven. It was Monty Brown, Raven, Abyss, AJ Styles, and Sean Waltman. Raven wound up being the winner, and he and
then Raven
scaled the ladder and grabbed the NWA World Title to win the match.
Okay. Gosh, I'm trying to recall all that. So that's how Raven became champion. I guess so.
Right? Well, I'm less interested in who won the match. I'm more interested in, did you refuse to do the finish?
No.
So why is it written here that you refused the finish?
I have no idea.
Play along. Let's guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was in the match and then out of it.
So AJ Styles was the champ since May of 2005. He won it at Hard Justice.
Oh, so AJ was the champ.
AJ was the champ. And then he dropped it to Raven here at Slammiversary. You won it back in Windsor in a Ravens Rules match, September 15th.
So I wasn't even the champion going into it.
No, but you were supposed to win. It's not about you being champ. It's the King of the Mountain match. You've been calling yourself King of the Mountain. Now they want you to lose your own match.
Yes. I do think that sounds logical to me. It wasn't about the championship. And Dusty said, hey, we're going to have this match. So,
which would have meant that if you won the match, you were the champ. So so what we're talking about is the same thing. We were splitting hairs about, did you have the belt? Did you not have the belt? At the end of the night, were you going to be the champion? And when you found out you weren't going to be the champion and you weren't going to win King of the Mountain, more importantly,
take me out of the King of the Mountain. Yes. But what I don't remember is I can remember a concerted effort. Was it by the committee or was it by Dusty? They wanted Raven to be champ. So how did he fall into my place? That's what I'm trying to recall. Because they took me out and put Raven in?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what they did.
So when you were arrested in the pregame show, the pre-show.
Shit, maybe that was the booking committee's creative story. Hey, we don't have to beat Jeff in the King of the Mountain match. Let's put Raven in. But I don't recall Raven winning the championship. I thought he won it in a singles. Guess he didn't.
He won it. I mean, yeah, he won it here.
Yeah, he must have won it here.
I'm just curious, like, and I'm not sure I'm getting the answer here.
No, I can definitely see me going, don't put me in the match and not win the King of the Mountain match. Or even a Tenay or D'Amore, hey, he's not winning this. Dusty wanted to do this. This was Dusty's idea. We're going a different direction. But I don't think they would have done that to Raven, but I guess they did.
Well, it's written here that it was contentious. Do you remember you not wanting to do the match as you'd been advertised and promoted being a point of contention with you and the committee, or more specifically, you and Dixie?
Not so much me and Dixie, just because Dixie really deferred to the committee. I will say that. She appointed, have we gone over that? She appointed D'Amore as kind of by default, or
it was her voice.
Yes. Well, maybe not her voice, but the lead, because I said make a leader in the room. At some point, you got to have somebody, okay, guys, we're going to make a decision. Even if it's a vote, kind of have Speaker of the House.
Yes. Okay.
I guess to put a button in it, I said, no, I don't want to be in the match if I'm not winning the King of the Mountain gimmick match. That would be, in my wrestling mind, that'd be my best recollection. But I damn sure don't know why they made Raven the champ in that match.
How do you walk that tightrope of being quote unquote office and a shareholder and an owner and a wrestler and make that call?
I think you're going to have to just say, hey, this is my opinion and my opinion only. But wearing all those multiple hats that I've done all these years, I feel that's a bad business decision. Therefore, that's what I believe. And therefore, that's what I'm going to do. Now, if you disagree with me, that's obviously a welcome disagreement, because we all can't get on the same page and agree on everything. So if that's the direction you want to go, I get it. I'll be over here. Y'all go do your thing.
What does "I'll be over here, y'all go do your thing" mean? I'm just going to work in the office. I'm not going to wrestle anymore.
Just for the night. At least it's like,
well, no, I'm with you, but I'm just saying, I'm not trying to get on you. I'm just trying to understand. Don't you set a precedent, because you're going to be in the future asking guys to do jobs.
Oh no, I'm saying for the one match. Like,
yeah, I get that, but I'm saying, okay, if you had one match that you've been promoting on pay-per-view, it's built around this guy's gimmick. He's called himself this forever now. And now the match finally gets here and you want him to lose. I guess what I'm asking is, if someone had done this to you,
yeah,
if you were the office delivering that and they said, well, no, take me out of the match, I'm not going to do it. Like, I could see how that would just chap your ass
without question.
And I understand that on some level, your attitude has always been, hey man, who cares? Run the play. But now that is like the office perspective. Hey man, who cares? Run the play. But the wrestler's perspective is, well, yeah, but I got to go make money with this name and this gimmick and this persona after tonight. And that does me no favors. So I don't want to do it. And to me, like, you are at an almost unwinnable position here of, do I protect my wrestling persona and the asset and the creative that I've built in this character to maybe my own detriment politically from an office standpoint? Like, doing the right thing by the Jeff Jarrett character might not have actually helped Jeff Jarrett, the businessman, in the future.
And if one's talking to the other, the businessman goes, man, I don't like this asshole, this prick. He's dictating creative. But I also know from my long career in Memphis, you always have next Saturday morning to rewrite the story. You know, you don't like it, but you kind of play the hand you're dealt.
Yes.
I mean, and a headbutting, conflict of interest, all the above. But I mean, I had those kind of conversations with Dixie multiple times. Dixie, at the end of the day, it's on your shoulders, period. your family is the majority. With that being said, that doesn't mean I have to go along with everything you're saying. And if,
Right.
if I don't want to say principle, because that's really a silly thing to say in creative, but I can easily remember me saying something to the effect, for tonight, that is something that I believe goes against the King of the Mountain character. With that being said, here's multiple solutions, and I know next pay-per-view or next TV or whatever it may be, we can all kind of figure this out and move on down the road. If you're saying this is a my way or the highway, well, you need to tell that to me now.
So you had that conversation here, or you're just saying hypothetically that's what it would have gotten to? It just didn't.
It could hypothetically. Yeah, we didn't have that. No.
So this was not one of those contentious moments.
No, my gut tells me and Scott probably had a phone call or a conversation, or maybe me and the committee. And I'm like, hey guys, I hear you loud and clear. And it's probably been a little bit of a turmoil, Dusty out. You guys are in, you got to make the decision. Hey, that doesn't work for me. I hope I don't feel like I'm disrespecting. Dusty told me one thing, we're going in a different direction. I get all that. That is my moniker. Why don't we come up with an alternative and move down that road?
To me, I think Raven winning in that scenario makes perfect sense, just based on what I've heard Bruce talk about and Eric talk about before, in that wrestling fans love surprises.
And maybe okay. I didn't mean to cut you off.
For him not to be a part of the match and then announced in the pre-show that he is in the match and he winds up winning.
Okay.
That's a fun surprise.
Well, I'll kind of take that. See, I'll take that spin on it. But Raven had been on that chase a couple of okay. So if he's a surprise winner, yeah. If he had been kind of in a build, I don't know. Here we go. Creative is subjective. Yeah. I get you.
I'm just fascinated by the fact that this is a King of the Mountain match. You were under the impression you were winning. When you're told you're not, you say, no, I'm going to take a pass. I don't even want to be in the match. And there wasn't a major problem. Do you think it caused any problems or hard feelings with you and any of the roster or anyone on the committee? Or is this just one of those things where people understood and we moved on?
There's no doubt 2 or 3 years into the business, I got a very good understanding. Every decision you make is going to be divisive in the locker room. It's just that simple. It still exists today. You know, that stat that you were having fun with, I'm sure that rubs a lot of folks the wrong way.
We'll fucking wrestle more matches.
Well,
ta-da.
I'm not talking about the people that were on that list. I'm talking about fans.
Oh, well, who gives a shit?
Well, you're kind of saying, I mean, I'm saying, but you know, in the locker room, like this kind of decision, hey, Jeff don't even want to be in the match, then I would kind of say, hey man, and I have said this, I've said it more in the last couple of years than ever. When I really look back, Vince McMahon took care of Undertaker in a lot of ways. Almost every way. Hulk Hogan took care of Hulk Hogan.
That's right.
He's the best talent to steer his ship in the history of the business. I don't think he has a peer. I think he may be one of the worst businessmen in the wrestling business ever. His track record speaks for itself. But what I'm saying is,
well, hang on. How would you say worst businessman? He made more money than anybody.
Oh no. I'm talking about as far as running he's not a booker. He's not a promoter. He's not an owner. No, he's the very best at running Hulk Hogan business.
Yes.
I mean, or running a wrestler. I look at his track record. It's unbelievable. I'm giving him flowers here. Maybe it's not coming in a huge way. I'm saying that every talent has to kind of have a certain degree of that. I think Lawler was fantastic. Lawler was part owner of the business, and his relationship with the Mole Man, look how far that got him. Hey, Jerry, I'm such a hot commodity here. And the big power play that happened at Memphis TV, my dad was like, hey, this is a no-brainer. Yep. You get 10% of the company. Literally. I mean, that's how, you know, that's so you kind of have to, and I know it doesn't completely operate that way today, but that's how the industry works. The talent has to kind of have an ebb and flow, give and take. but that's the nature of the beast. Am I making sense on that kind of talent having, you asked, your question was, you think that rubs some people in the locker room the wrong way? Oh my God. Every decision a talent makes on some level rubs talent the wrong way.
So you got comfortable with that early in your career.
I got lucky. I was blessed. That's the reality. Yes. I dealt with it in Dallas. That was a huge education with Devon Erickson. I'm like, now wait a minute, Kevin and Carrie. You son of a guns were hemorrhaging money, not just getting a goose egg. Y'all were writing personal checks out of this bad boy. Now, old man JArrett comes out there, and you boys are not just wrestling money, syndication money with Max Andrews, getting fat checks. But y'all don't like the decisions he's making, basically solely based on ego? What? But no, that's the education the business gives you.
So let's talk about the Spike deal. How integral was Dixie with landing the Spike deal?
So her father and a high-ranking Viacom official, nothing to do with Spike, I'm talking way up in the Viacom, had a conversation in Mexico. Bob had a wrestling company, and Viacom either had lost WWF at the time or was losing, or that was going south. You know what? I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can't get you a meeting. So it literally was kind of from Bob to that conversation to another friend. My bad. Bob's conversation was someone in the music business who had contacts. Maybe they were a label. Gosh almighty, Conrad. Anyway, it was a friend of a friend. That's how the original meeting was set up with Kevin K. And at the time, we were talking to WGN. Trying to think, we had from the day we went on Fox Sports, I can't say the day, but 3 months in, 4 months in, we knew that wasn't sustainable, if you will. That, hey, we need to get into a rights fee situation, but we have to kind of prove ourselves. That's why when I look at the landscape of the industry, it's so different. You know, at this time, 2003, 4, 5, you're still kind of coming off. Wait a minute, WCW, Thunder, Nitro, they were top 5, top 10 rated programs, and they shut it down. What's going on? It was just so hard. Wrestling was really a 4-letter word in so many ways. And the cable industry was way different. You know, the reality show business was red hot. But I'll say all that to say that's how the Carter family, they were very integral in setting up a Spike meeting.
Dixie would make an announcement on TNAwrestling.com. She would touch on the fact that there were negotiations with other folks. Of course, there's always been rumor and innuendo that WGN was on the list. But she says, quote, "We were fortunate enough to have interest from several places. In the end, we felt that Spike TV and their audience was the best place for us to be. These guys understand our audience and have experience in wrestling. They value the product, and we look forward to growing our property together." And she would continue to say, "The TNA is considering each valuable and available free agent from WWE on a case-by-case basis, but the focus will remain on the current group of wrestlers who have, quote, worked their butts off for TNA and deserve this exposure to show the world how amazing they are." So listen, she is the master of PR. I mean, that's really how you met her. Kudos for her. She did a great job with this.
Fantastic.
You and I've not spent much time talking about this, but how real was the WGN opportunity, do you think?
I think it was going to be they'd never, boy, your Google me machine, they've had WWF program from time to time, but
Yes.
getting in bed we were a startup and growing an audience. It was real, Conrad. The WGN talks were real, but like their network's different, and getting a rights fee, their carriage, and remember they were Cubs, and I think at this time still the Bulls. It's a different. They were a superstation at this time. just kind of a different landscape, Conrad, but they were real. We were plowing the ground and trying to get creative on how we make a deal. Remember, we're writing a check plus paying for all production. If we could have gotten to C level, it would have been a win, at some level, or structured some kind of creative financing. They cover production cost, whatever it may be. We were attempting that. And that's why, and I know we've talked about it through different episodes at different times. But Conrad, and I'll say this story again, because it was pretty appropriate that this is the episode that TNA is getting relaunched. When me and my father and Dixie and David Sahadi flew to New York, had the meetings, Kevin Kay, guy named Jim Burns, I think Brian Diamond was in there. But Conrad, when we had that meeting, when we, talked and the startup and where we had come from and, letting Kevin talk and listen to him. And remember, they're coming off the WWE relationship, which, they had been with USA Network for at that point, 10 years, a long time. And so I'm sure the WWE folks were set in their ways. It wasn't the best relationship, I'll say that. And I'm sure going from USA to Spike, or at that time, it was Spike, it wasn't a top 10 or a top 5 network. It was a top 25 network. So just by cum ratings and those points, the numbers weren't what Vince wanted. So I'm sure it was contentious. Well, I know it was a lot of times. So them basically getting out of the wrestling business, and kind of glad they were, to them taking a look and, okay, we kind of like what we see here in the conversations, and to go from getting out to in one day, because I've said this, we flew home, the Panda jet flew us back to Nashville, and then they went on to Dallas, and I, from the private airfield, got in my car, drove by the office. God, this is really dating me, to go in and check voicemails, and maybe to get a bag or a briefcase. I don't know. But I stopped by there to listen to voicemails. And on my voicemail was Jim Burns. Hey, Jeff, we really liked what we heard today. Can you give our office a call tomorrow? We'd like to figure out next steps. Conrad, that day, it forever changed the history of TNA.
It's amazing to think about, all the rumors that were happening earlier in the same year.
Yes.
Dixie would do some other PR, and they would talk about, hey, there was rumor that maybe TNA would be shutting down because of monetary losses and unfavorable television deals that never came to fruition. And she says, there's never been a day I felt that. People have been saying we don't have a chance. Well, you lose money when you start a new company. We've had a wonderful business plan in place that we have met or exceeded along the way. And she would continue talking about how thrilled Spike was that TNA was going to be on the air, how innovative it was, and how different it was from what they had on the air. Quote, they've been believers from the beginning, and they're as excited about us being on Spike as we are. And she also says that she hopes that this creates an opportunity for the 10 million wrestling fans who had stopped watching wrestling over the last 5 years to come take a look at TNA. Quote, I hope they, WWE, grow 2 million fans, and I hope we find the other 8. That's what it's all about, getting back in there and reconnecting with people who maybe got disenchanted with where wrestling was going. Listen, she's masterful in a PR setting. High five for her. Did you believe that was even possible? That I know too, part of your belief when you started TNA was that, hey, a whole lot of fans used to watch WCW, and now they don't have an alternative anymore. And I think if we create that alternative, a lot of fans will come back. Did you ever think the number 10 million between two companies was real?
Oh, was that real? Look, you talking about in the late 90s when
I'm
both.
talking about in 02 when you started it, or at this point in 05 when she's saying it.
So did I think the number 10 million fans in the 90s when it disrupted Monday Night Football? I didn't have a reason not to believe that. You know, Nielsen says WCW did, 4 million fans and WWE did 6 million fans. Yes, I believed at one time there were 10 million wrestling fans out there watching. I didn't have enough data, and maybe I just didn't understand it enough. Conrad, well, I'll finish that. Did I answer your question there? Because I got a whole nother thing that we're kind of
Well,
over.
Bruce and Eric don't believe there were ever 10 million fans who were watching.
Okay, interesting.
They both think there was a lot of overlap. But let's table that for a minute. I'm just curious, when you had like your big vision for, hey man, what do I want this new business to be? What am I investing all this money in? Did you think 10 million was even possible between TNA and WWE? Because as I sit here now, I don't think there's any chance we get to 10 million again.
Well,
I put the chances near zero here in America, because that's what we're talking about here. Now, if we're saying globally, that's a different thing.
And say that's where you get into YouTube views. But when you really bundle up, and I know it's global, so we're going to go in that rabbit hole. But when you kind of go into The Rock on SmackDown, Adam Copeland debut, when you kind of start, okay, 20 million people saw this clip, and again, kind of, I get it's global. When you kind of look at these digital numbers and you think that, okay, the world has changed. In the 90s, Nielsen ratings were out there. Everybody wasn't attached to their phone. You weren't dialed, it's how the golden age of cable television worked. The world's changed, Conrad. So I cannot say that, nope, there were never 10 million fans. I don't think we will ever have enough data to either prove or disprove that number from the 90s. Today, okay, and look, this is so silly to say, Conrad, but let me ask you something.
Okay.
Walking through not just the Nashville airport, because that's kind of my home base. I'll say any airport, right? Do you think I would be more recognized in the 90s or today?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's hard to answer, but you're going to tell me today, aren't you?
Oh, by far. By far.
Now, do you think that is?
Don't ask me.
No, I'm hear me out. Is that
you forget to go back to the summer that we're talking about? We're missing a big point on all of this, but go ahead.
Are you saying that you're more recognized since you've started wrestling on TV for AEW?
Well,
I'm wondering, like, was that the case around Ric Flair's last match time, or is that more the case now since you're on TV with regularity?
Oh, okay.
Because I know you popped up on SmackDown here and there and that sort of thing when you were working with WWE, but now that you're in the ring pretty consistently, hell, you've wrestled more than most of the AEW roster.
So maybe even say since the Hall of Fame. I'm trying. You're trying to look. Context.
When did that happen? Is what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, Hall of Fame was 18.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
Okay. I'd say
you've been pretty steady since 18.
Yeah.
Respectfully, do you think you're also more aware of it? Yes.
Conrad always throw. I mean that is absolutely a fair point. But
I'm just saying now your whole life is in perspective is different. You approach everything with a gratitude.
Yep.
And I'm not saying this existed for you before, but you were a heel and you were also running and gunning and busy. And so I could see how
busy
you're really focused on being busy. And you're just dismissive. Whereas now that you're of clear and sound mind, and there's no cloud, there's no fog, you might just approach everything with gratitude. Like, man, can you believe I got recognized 4 times this week? How cool is that? Whereas before it would have been like, these fucking marks getting in the way of my Dr. Pepper or whatever it was.
I don't know. I mean, it's food for thought. I'll just say that's, I mean, it's a fair point, your perspective or potential. Yeah. I don't know. That's, I mean, it's, you know, we're going down this, how many wrestling fans are out there? And to circle back to that, when I started it, it was, look at the amount of pay-per-view, look at back to the black and white, look at the amount of revenue that wrestling's producing.
Yes. It's producing more now, but in different ways.
Oh, way different.
And if you're looking to produce more, but in different ways, can I recommend Blue Chew? Because I know that's one of the reasons that Jeff is recognized. Everybody's heard about the stroke and they want one of their own. Well, too late. Jeff Jarrett's off the menu. He's not available, but you can trap that thing with our friends at Blue Chew. If you haven't already tried this, what the damn holdup is, y'all? How about free? Can you beat free? We got free hard-ons over here. Seriously, it's going to feel like it was 1986 again. You're going to absolutely love it. Jeffro is going to be strutting around the locker room, listening to Word Up, giving the Von Erichs the old what for, because he's got the secret sauce. It's got the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Mash it up. Boom, there it goes. And here it comes. Take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. Guys, it's so simple to get your ding dong so hard, even a cat couldn't scratch it. You just sign up at bluechew.com. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And once you're approved, you receive your prescription within days. And here's the best part. It's all done online. So no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package. But there won't be anything discreet about your package. It's going to be like a guitar shot over the head. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at bluechew.com. Chew it and do it. And don't blame the refs. Run the score up in the second half. 27-0. We got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free. And use our promo code MyWorld at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com. The promo code's MyWorld. Receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast and Jeffrey's Wiener. Hey, Jeff, let me ask you a question. I've never been a wrestler. I've certainly never taken a bump in a wrestling ring. I've only walked around a ring like 3 or 4 times whenever we would do shows and you had to like get in there to do it. But let's say hypothetically you took a Blue Chew and you weren't expecting to wrestle. You're expecting to have some meetings in the parking lot because you're just going to do promos today. And then all of a sudden they tell you, hey, did you bring your gear? Because so-and-so didn't show up. He wasn't going to win his own gimmick match, so he refused to wrestle. So we're going to put the strap on you tonight. So go gear up. Now you're faced with this dilemma because you've taken the Blue Chew and we know it really works. How would you try to A, conceal it from the crowd, and B, not hurt yourself if you had to do a front bump? Would you tuck it into your waistband or what would you do? What would the protocol be? How do you fall flat when you got your TP rocking?
You know that Ric Flair face bump?
Yep.
That would definitely be out of the arsenal.
That's what I'm saying. How would you even do that?
Wouldn't do it.
You're delivering the stroke. And I mean, all these moves that you have to go forward for, like I've never taken a DDT, but Bruce says the trick is you got to get flat.
Okay.
You don't want to jam your gimmick up. So where are you tucking that thing? How do you put it in a holster down there?
Yeah, I guess you got to wear Last Outlaw jeans, you know.
Oh, okay. And you just duct tape it to your leg, you think?
With a holster.
Okay. I mean, these are questions people want to know, Jeff.
You sick son of a gun, you.
Have you ever wrestled and accidentally it happened?
Nope.
Have you ever been in a match with a guy and you're like, what the hell, man?
Nope.
Have you ever heard of that happening to someone?
Honestly, Conrad, I've been doing this A few years now. I've yet to hear that.
Now you've heard of guys vomiting in the ring, right?
Oh, sure. Puke.
You've heard of guys taking a slam and here comes a little squirt out the back end, right?
I have heard of that back. Ugh, gosh.
You've probably even heard where guys maybe accidentally got the piss slapped out of them, right?
Well, I don't know any urination.
Okay, so our problems are usually up top or down yonder. Everything in between is fine. Is that fair to say?
How did we take a left turn on this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've heard like people have had their gimmick fall out during a match. There was that Starrcade where Nikita took the big suplex from Ric Flair. Tommy Young had to help him.
Did know that story. Oh
yeah. Go watch that Nikita Ric Flair match and you'll see Tommy Young go, oh, that's not supposed to be here. And helps Nikita. And we've also heard that Mick Foley would sometimes pick up Al Snow for a suplex and accidentally pull the trunk so people could see. I think he called it a bird's egg and a sparrow's nest. And so we've heard of these type situations happening before, but you've never had one of those malfunctions.
Oh, I really haven't. I put my game face on and go work.
I know a lot of wrestlers or a lot of fans maybe don't think about this, but you can't wear a cup when you're wrestling. Like that would probably hurt really bad. So that's probably not a good call.
Not it. Yeah.
But what is the other layer of protection? Like, do some guy, I feel like I've seen some guys, it's been revealed that they wear, I think Jim Ross might call it T-back underwear.
Or under tights is what I've always, your under tights. And they can come in all kind of shapes and sizes, but under tights.
What's the go-to Jeff Jarrett under tights?
Just, well, you're really good. I mean, just,
do you have a favorite brand, a favorite color?
Jockey.
Okay. So you like Jockey.
Just Jockey, small ones. What do you call those?
Bikini briefs.
There you go.
Okay. Now, do you let the ass cheeks hang out or are you getting those covered up? Are you wearing a thong, Jeff?
Yeah. Sometimes, no, they're covered up.
Now, sometimes, what's the special occasion where you put a thong on?
Like bikini briefs. Isn't that the name of them?
Yeah, but they still cover your butt. A bikini brief does.
I got you.
But I'm talking about right up the crack of your ass, Jeff. Yeah. Have you worn those before?
For sure.
Is it whenever you know you're going over, you're winning the world title, a special occasion?
Connie.
How do you decide I'm going to go full back or I'm going to go T-back?
You know, it's flavor of the day. I've done it long enough. Just pack your bag and off to the races.
Do you ever let Mrs. Jarrett pack your bag?
Nope.
Because you're worried that she might forget something and that becomes a situation?
Oh, yes. I always pack and repack and double check my bag. Always have.
Does she have a preference for full bikini brief?
I don't think so. That would be her question. I mean, that'd be a question for her.
What percentage of wrestlers would you say are rocking thongs?
I honestly, Conrad, I have no idea. I don't. Nowadays, I have no idea. I mean,
do you think Jerry Lawler ever wore a thong?
No. See, he wore long tights and then short tights over it. You know,
I see. So this is a short, tight situation.
Yes.
Well, we know that the Nature Boy, he would just free ball.
No way.
Oh, yeah. Remember how many times he used to get his trunks pulled down in matches?
Oh, yes. I do.
He used to like to show his ass off.
He would. You're right.
And I know that heels like to show ass, but he took that literally.
Yeah. I've never given it this much in depth.
Well, I'm going to hang up and call Arn Anderson. I need to know, did you ever wear thongs? I just can't imagine Arn Anderson strutting around in the thong. Listen, I know I shouldn't be asking this, but I just can't help it. Do they even make thongs for a fella Satnam Singh size? I mean, that you can't just run down and get that at Thongs R Us.
You'd have to ask Satnam. Maybe special made from India.
Well, we need to ask and put that on ad-free shows. Thong or no thong? Maybe I'll ask Tony Schiavone that, and he can just pull the wrestlers behind the scenes.
There you go. Oh.
Hey, so let's talk about it. It's a big deal.
Hey, Spike deal.
Yeah. Dixie said October 1st was the beginning of the company. That's the Spike deal. And she says, quote, the first 3 years were research and development and investment money. We've been very smart with our money as we continue to make more money and build a business foundation that when the money did start coming in, that would never be an issue for us. She's talking about losing money would never be an issue. So in her head, in Dixie's mind, landing the Spike deal, this has been the holy grail. This is the payoff. This is everything we've been working for. And you feel the same way, right?
So here was the thing I was going to refresh. It popped in my brain because the summer Slammiversary, all that none of that was coming clear, and it wasn't. I don't think it was in the notes. So we were on Fox Sports from June to the following May. We went off Fox Sports first week of June. So we weren't on TV going into Slammiversary, if I recall correctly, because we had WGN going on. We had, different negotiations going on. And the booking committee was kind of put together, I think, at the end. That's why I wish I had the dates. I think at the end of the Fox Sports era.
Yeah, that sounds right. Early June.
So it was put together. So we were off, and it was like, what's the vision? What's the direction we were going to go? Because we didn't know. Is it WGN? Are we going to go back to pay-per-views? How are we going to create content? Is it going to be monthly shows? Is it going to be WGN? Is it WGN a half hour? I'd have to think of the different things we were talking about. And then that's how, when Spike did it, I mean, really quick, maybe July, it was hotter than hell outside. So that's how things were kind of in limbo. But yeah, the Spike deal, when they called and they basically said, because we were anxious, like, what are you thinking? And Kevin was very clear. We like you. We don't know how our audience is going to respond. We feel very favorable. We want to put you all on Saturday nights off Prime. We were like, what's it pay? Yep, we'll take it. We're in. I mean, we were all through the moon. But it was Saturday night off Prime. But that's the struggle to get to prime time was real and kind of miraculous in a lot of ways too.
Let's talk a little bit about the pay-per-views after Slammiversary. No Surrender on top had Raven beating Abyss in a dog collar match for the NWA title. He retained. At Sacrifice, there was a tag match where Jeff Jarrett would team with Rhino to take on Raven and Sabu. If you got the pin on Raven, you would earn a title shot. But if Raven pinned you, then you don't get a title shot for a whole year. At Unbreakable, it was an incredible show. We saw Raven beat Rhino in a Raven's Rule match, but in the main event, I think the first and only 5-star match in TNA history at the time, AJ beat Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe. Go out of your way to see that one.
What year is this?
05.
So we were on Spike.
No, that starts October 1st. So October 23rd is Bound for Glory 05. Your first pay-per-view once you've landed this Spike deal. And in the main event, it's Rhino beating you for the title, because along the way you had that show in Windsor where you won the belt.
Yep. Okay. When was Unbreakable though?
September of 05.
So the month before.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The month before you're on Spike, you have arguably the greatest match in TNA history, according to Dave Meltzer.
Yeah, but that's why when you just kind of look at the history,
you had so much momentum going here, especially with the benefit of hindsight. At the end of 05, because we're gonna stop it down at 05. We'll pick up talking about Dixie and cover 06 and everything else in the future, because this is such a complicated relationship and it's all tied to the business. You can't really just talk about your and her relationship without contextualizing it with what was happening in the business at the time.
And she was having kids. The whole thing is so different. Yeah.
So we've glossed over a lot of the nitty gritty details here today. We'll continue to cover those in the future, but as we close out 05, I mean, you guys had a rocky start. You're thankful that she helped save your ass in 02. There were certain challenges in 03 and certainly big celebrations in 04 when you got TV. 05 proved to be a pretty tumultuous year, but when you land the thing, and make no mistake, getting that television deal, that's landing the thing. You had to end 05 on a good note with Dixie, no?
Oh, and that's why, look, in our worst of days, it wasn't pretty, but for the most part, except in the power play, it never got personal. It was all business. Didn't really get personal to the end of 09. And that, I get it. It was still business because it was a business power play and used my personal, but that's for another podcast. But the struggles that we all went through, and I say all, I mean, JArrett, Jeff Jarrett, Dixie Carter, Bob Carter, everybody, Panda, Frank Dickerson, bless his heart, the stuff he had to go through, all the talent, the uphill climb. It was a real struggle, but the spirit that we had all had, and I hope those guys, it won't be the same spirit because it's 15 years later. But it's different. We had a real will to succeed. And there was such a feel-good moment to know, especially the James Storms and AJs and the guys that had been through the asylum and the Fox Sports. But now we're on a cable network. And as we closed out 05, there was already talk of, hey, man, your ratings, because I think we started, Conrad, this is another thing that's kind of a footnote. When we started at like a 0.6 and 2.5, 3 years later, we're doing 1.3s, 1.4s, 1.5s, 1.6. We got on, that's doubling your audience. That was a real success track record that everybody was, not just felt, everybody was a part of that success. No doubt about it. Everybody, I mean, it was a grind, but it was really it was a fantastic time to be in TNA at the end of 05.
Well, it's a fantastic time to join us over at adfreeshows.com. You get all these shows early and ad-free, and you can even be a part of our live studio audience. I want to give a special shout out to Aaron and RDF 1987 and Eric Green and Coach Rosie, and I know Jeremy Priest was here, and Coach Keith was here, and so many folks. Appreciate Alex and James and everybody stopping by and checking out what we're doing. Shout out to Darren, and man, you guys always support us. We greatly appreciate you, Bryant and David, and the whole crew, man. Thanks for joining us here for a live version of My World. We're going to be back next week, and I'm pretty excited about next week. We're going to be talking about Halloween Havoc 2000. It'll be a major singles match between yourself and Sting, who just recently announced his retirement. I'm sure we'll touch on that next week. There's several different Stings in the match, including a James Storm. What? Yeah. We'll talk about that. Vince Russo became the WCW champ in this era. You were in a San Francisco 49ers match for the vacant WCW title with Booker T. We'll talk about your trip to Australia and maybe a little Hoovy juice over there. A different juice will be discussed next week. Finally, we'll talk about Beetlejuice on next week's program. Don't you dare miss it. Tell your friends, tag us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit us with your questions as well. It's at MyWorldPod. We'd also love to have your support on our YouTube channel. That's MyWorldOnYouTube.com. Lots of fun merch available at boxofgimmicks.com, including the new Trap That Thing t-shirt. And I also want to mention that you can check out how to advertise with us at advertisewithjarrett.com. Jeff, we've had a lot of fun talking about 2005 with you today and how much you love wearing thong underwear and how you make bad bets and you're a spoil sport and you're a sore loser and how you've got Andre the Skunk in your backyard. We covered a lot of bases today, but I guess I'll just want to know, what does it feel like to be the most valuable player for All Elite Wrestling?
Stop it. Just stop it. Are the guys listening to this live just chuckling about it? I was trying to, my mouse has got to be recharged. I was trying to get over in the comments. I'm sure they're just.
Here's how you know I'm over. Check out this comment. Let's see if Marcus can pull it up. We got a comment a few minutes ago from RDF_1987. I can't believe this is a real thing. Conrad is even more handsome devil when it's live.
Oh,
how about that? I'm just giving the people what they want, Jeff.
I'll see you in court, pal. I'll see you in court, pal.
Well, you keep running your mouth, and I'll have you strutting around Neyland Stadium in an Alabama Crimson Tide thong. We'll see you next week right here on My World.
Peace.
Hey guys, Eric Bischoff here to talk to you about my friends over at SaveWithConrad.com. Are you looking to get out of debt? Conrad and his team can make that happen faster than me firing the honky tonk man. Wow. And you know that controversy creates cash, right? But you know what doesn't create cash? Credit card debt. Save with Conrad can help you consolidate high-interest credit cards and all of your other debt into one low monthly payment. They can even help you get the cash you need for home improvements or anything else. They've helped 83 Weeks listeners save $500, $600, $700, even $800 a month. Seriously, your papers are going to go down faster than Nitro ratings in 2000. Ouch! And how about this? No house payments for 2 months. That's right, no house payments for 2 months. And unlike the dirt sheets, man, the reviews do not lie. With over 1,000 5-star reviews, find out for yourself how much Conrad and his team can save you by checking out savewithconrad.com today. You'll be grateful you did.
NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. Woo!